Hi students, before I go through this topic, I like to refresh you about the earlier sports topic which I had taken on sports injuries. Considered that topic as the chapter 1, and it is the continuation of that topic through management of this sports injuries. Okay, consider this topic as the chapter number 2. In chapter 1, I have explained you what is the definition of sports injury. So you can just go through this definition, and also have explained you about the how the sports injury is classified into two groups depending upon the integrity of the skin. The first classification is exposed injury, and the second classification is the unexposed injury. Okay, about the definitions of exposed wound and unexposed wound, it is explained in the chapter 1. In this chapter we are going to learn to identify the wound and how to take precautions from spreading of infection. Okay, now in case of exposed wounds classification, now if you are suffering through abrasion, then what are the precautions you are required? Okay, in abrasion must be cleaned thoroughly. Soak and water will work well. Before, the area must be cleaned with an antibacterial liquid. Care must be taken to remove all the foreign material from the wound. Depending on the circumstances of injury, you must have to use soft brush to clean the area thoroughly. A traditional method of caring for an abrasion is to apply an antiseptic to the area after the wound has been cleaned and the covered with a sterile or non-adhesive dressing. Okay, now this is the method to take care of the wound which is named as abrasion. Now what is abrasion? I have explained you about it in the chapter 1. Okay, in this chapter we are just going to learn how to manage the wounds. Identification about them I have explained you in the earlier chapter. Okay, now the second one is blisters. Identifying the cause such as poor fitting shoes or a spikes through the sole of a shoes, which can alleviate further complications. Many blisters can be drained and the skin protected, thus preventing the athlete to continue normal activities. Infected blisters may require medical assistance. Okay, now the third and fourth symptoms are the same. We need to take the precautions are also the similars. Okay, that is laceration and incision. The initial care for laceration and incision is essential the same as for the abrasion. Once bleeding has been controlled, carefully clean and inspect the wound. The athlete must be referred to a physician for any of the following reason. Okay, now we'll check what are the reasons. The wound may be sutured for adequate closure. Now if the wound is a half inch length, okay, or 1 by 8 inch depth, then it must be suture so that infection shouldn't be spread. There is a foreign material embedded in the wound that cannot be removed. Bleeding persists despite all efforts to control it. The wound is on the face or another part of the body where scar tissue will be notified after healing. Okay, in this case, no, you have to contact to physician so that the care must be taken properly. Now the fifth one is punctured wound. Only if the puncture is very minor and the penetrated object is small with little depth of penetration is the athlete trainer justified in simply cleaning the wound and observe the sign of infection. The majority of punctured wounds should be cleaned and appropriately referred to a physician. Large item that remains embedded should be left in a place until a physician can remove them. These wounds should be inspected frequently for sign of infection. Now the last one is avulsion. Cleaning should be taken. If a avulsed piece of skin or tissue of significant size is torn completely free of the athlete, it should be saved and transported with the athlete to a medical facility. The avulsed portion should be wrapped in sterile gauze and kept moist and clean. Occasionally, significant portion of avulsed tissue may be successfully reattached. When the avulsed part remains attached, the skin should be peeled in its normal position before bandaging. Bandage. Now here we complete with the care and the precautions which are required for the exposed wound. The next one is unexposed wound classifications like contusion, strain, sprain, dislocations and fractures. So in case of unexposed injuries, the most common treatment is referred as PRIZE. Now what is the long form of PRIZE is P stands for protection, R stands for rest, I for ice, C for compression, E for elevation and S for support. Okay. The first one is contusion. The initial treatment of contusion is to control the bleeding by means of ice, compression and elevation. Heat and activity during this initial period may encourage or promote bleeding and should be avoided. During recovery, the athlete should be protected from re-injuring by padding the area and by avoiding excess activity which may aggravate the injured tissue. Okay, these are the precautions necessary for contusion wound. The next one is strain. Strain should be treated initially with cold. Like cold means ice treatment. Like in a plastic bag, you can put few ice cubes and apply to the wound. Compression and elevation, and then be referred to a physician for further diagnosis and treatment. Strain should be referred to a physician for any of the following reasons. A visible gap is noted. muscle fiber bunch as the result of contraction and lack attachment of an extremity a fixed point. The athlete demonstrate a significant weakness and loss of function. Okay, in these cases, no, you need to contact physician as early as possible. The next one is sprain. The initial treatment of sprain is to control the internal bleeding by means of ice, compression and elevation. Sprain should be treated with routine initial procedure, support and referred to a physician for further diagnosis and surgical repair if necessary. Sprain should be referred to a physician for any of the following reasons. Significant indisability in demonstrating by passive stress test. Significant joint effusion occurred within few hours after the injury. There is doubt about the status of the sprain. The next wound is dislocation. The initial treatment of dislocation is to control the internal bleeding by means of ice, compression and elevation. The object of treatment is reduction of the dislocation by a physician. Initially, the athletic trainer should support the injured joint to prevent any further damage. All dislocation and suspected dislocation should be referred to a physician for radiography and further evaluation. Surgical intervention is sometimes required and the injured ligament must be supported and protected throughout the healing procedure. Unprotected joints may heal with increased laxity in the ligament. Now the last one is fracture. The treatment for suspected fracture is that of protection for the injured area so that no further damage occurs because of improper handling or movement. This is normally accomplished by supporting the injured area. Remember to immobilize the joint above and below a fracture site to avoid movement of the bone fragments. If there is an open wound associated with the fracture, control the bleeding and apply a sterile dressing before supporting the area. The injured athlete must be transported to a medical facility immediately after doing so. The next stage of sports injury is hyperthermia. Now, this is the definition of hyperthermia. Now, we'll see what are the treatment and precautions which are necessary in case of hyperthermia. Treatment for all heat conditions involves immediate moving the person to a cool area. Now, this is a common logic. Now, if you are suffering from a heat condition, then it is sure that you have to be in cooler places. Remove all the equipment and unnecessary clothing and cooling the body. These are the precautions. Place the individual in a supine position with the feet elevated above the heart to maintain blood pressure and circulation of the brain. Cool fluids with a diluted electrolyte solution may be administered unless the individual is in sense condition or in conscious condition. So okay, these are the necessary precautions which are required in case of hyperthermia. Now, if in case the condition is worst, what precautions are required? With heat cramps, passive stretching and ice massage over the affected area is helpful. In suspected heat exhaustion and heat stroke, activity EMIs, rapid cooling of the body and fluid replacement is a priority. Cooling can be enhanced by sponging or toweling the individual with cool water or place the place him in front of a fan. Particular attention should be directed to cooling the major blood vessels in the armpit, ground, and neck region. Core temperature should be taken every 10 minutes and should not fall below 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. To avoid hyperthermia, physical activity should be resumed until the individual has returned to the pre-dehydrated state and has been cleared all by physician. Okay, after when he cools down, he has to shift to a medical facility to check by a physician, and unless and until he gives a clean sheet to the athlete, he shouldn't be performing the normal activities or any sports activity. Now, the role of an early physical method in preventing and management. The first role is pre-participation physical examination. The examination should be performed 4 to 6 weeks before the season about the athlete level of the condition. The 7 major parts of sports examination are past medical history and current medical information. Measurements including range of motion, body type, strength, percentage body fat, posture, level of malnutrition, and cardiovascular fitness. Orthopedic examination, eye examination, dental screening, laboratory test, review of the examination by a physician to allow, disallow or restricted athletic participation. Okay, these are the precautions which are necessary for an athlete to undergo before any vigorous training or if he is willing to participate for a major competition. The next role is pre-injury data collection. Pre-injury data collection can help identify possible problems area and set goal in rehabilitation courses. Like for an example, testing muscular strength, power and endurance. The next role is nutrition and diet. Nutrition is an important component of in-season and off-season conditioning. A good nutrition program should consist of low-fat, high-fiber. Nutrition food from the major food groups includes dietary products, fruits, vegetables, bread and cereals, meat, and alternates such as dry fruits and nuts. The recommended ration for the food is about 55% of carbohydrate, 30% of fat, and 15% of protein. So this is an idealized ratio for carbohydrate, fat, and protein for how much an athlete has to be included in the diet. The major difference between in-season and off-season nutrition conditioning is calorie intake. The average a sedimentary, that is non-athletic person may require about 1500 calories per day, whereas moderate training athletes average is 3000 calories per day, and intense training endurance athletes may require over 5000 calories per day. The next role is education. Education is the best form of preventing medicine. The educated athlete studies off-season condition programs, biomechanics, diet and nutrition, equipments, fitness, sports psychology, injury prevention techniques, injury treatment procedures. The educated athletes also becomes familiar with the rules and regulations of the sports, especially as the related to drug control and balanced substances. Now students, these roles are to prevent you from getting injured. Okay, these are few criterias that you should be known. So before you are attending any major competition, you shouldn't get injured. These are the things which are necessary you have to follow. The next one is safe playing environment and equipment. Now we'll see the details. The sports medicine participation carefully inspect all for playing facilities to ensure that they are safe for playing. Weather condition including heat, cold, rain and light should be monitored. Injuries can be prevented with appropriate clothing and equipment. Injury can also be prevented by correct fitting of the equipments. Students, when you are playing, first thing is your fitness. If you are fit, then only you can perform any kind of sports. This is your personal thing. Now, excluding those things, your environment, that is your indoor and your outdoor, how they are safe for you, you have to monitor that. Means if it is too heat, then how many hours you have to practice. If it is cold, then which are the necessary things which are required to take precautions before conducting the practice session. Okay, now there must be sufficient light also. You cannot practice in darkness. Okay, because of that also you may get injured. This is related with the environment. And also the important is equipments. Equipments also must be monitored properly, so that they shouldn't have any sharp edges, that while practicing you shouldn't get injured because of it. Okay, now these two components, warm up and warm down, are also important for safety measures. Okay, most athletes consider the warm up as an integral part of the event. It is something that helps getting their body and mind ready for the workout or competition. They feel that it's not only helps their performance, but it also helps prevent injuries. It appears that an increase in the temperature within the muscle is necessary for the attainment for optimal performance. Through an elevation of the core temperature is also considered as important. The athletic body tends to work more efficiently, more safely, and at a higher level when warmed up. Some of the advantages of warm-up includes raised maximum oxygen intake, a reduction in the oxygen needed for a specific activity, and a reduction in the resistance of pulmonary blood flow. In addition, there is an increased rate of neuromuscular transmission and recruitment of muscle fiber, as well as activation of neuromuscular memory for the specific movement that are necessary for the event. From the psychological standpoint, that warm-up helps the athlete to focus on the forthcoming action. Okay, these are the benefits of warm up. Now we'll see about warm down. Following the event, the athletic should be allowed a warm up activity period of about 3 or 5 minutes. This has the effect of removing lactic acid and other products of metabolic forms, the muscle and the tissue, thereby helping reduce some of the stiffness and tightness so often experienced the following days. This also allows the athletic time to schedule down physically and psychologically after the outpouring of adrenaline and the excitement of the event. So these are the benefits of warm down. We also call this as cooling down or cool down. Okay. I hope you will enjoy the chapter, and in future whenever if you face any kind of wound, you will be aware how to take precaution for it. Thank you. Stay fit and healthy.